This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
Are you ready to retire? Well, have you saved enough? We're going to discuss this and more today on Financial Insanity. I'm your host, as always, Alex Dingman, and I'm here alongside my good friend, Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group, founder of McLean Advisory Group, and a tremendous financial advisor. Scott, this is always a highlight of my week, my friend. It's great to see you.
Thank you, buddy. Right here in Waretown, New Jersey. What a beautiful day it is. You know, whether it's raining or hot or cold, it's a beautiful time, and I'm so glad to be able to work. And I think I got another 40 years in me, Alex.
Yeah, I think so too, my friend. And for all of our fabulous listeners, if you hear something today and it raises some questions for you, if you want to learn more, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646, the number for Scott McLean and the wonderful team at McLean Advisory Group. But Scott, let's jump right in here.
Yeah, I want to put a note real quick from our last couple of shows. We have had so many people calling in asking questions. So first of all, I want to put a shout out to those people that are calling in. You've got some really deep concerns, and I've had a few people come into the office. I really wanted to find the concerns, and man, when they leave here, the coolest thing, Alex, I wanted to share out there is I tell them to hide your wallet, hide your checkbook. We can't do business. Let's get to know each other to understand the questions more in detail, because retirement is scary. So I wanted to thank those people that have just met with and they've got on the phone, because, you know, by putting these questions off, because we're going to come with some serious questions today, Alex. You mentioned what we're doing today.
Yep.
And if you've got those questions, don't put it off. It's like, if you had to go to the doctor and you had cancer, you're going to get a second, third, maybe a fourth opinion. This is why it's so important. So I wanted to thank those people who came in. And for those of you calling, the questions that Alex and I go back and forth come from you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, that's a great note. And so, yes, talking about if you are ready or not to retire. Later on, we're going to be talking about how boomers obviously up to bat with retirement right now, but Generation X is on deck. And then we're going to close the show with probably our favorite segment, the mailbag segment, where again, we get questions from you, the great listeners. But let's jump into the topic of the day, talking about how much money do I need to retire comfortably. So Scott, is there an actual magic number?
Well, let me grab my figure 8 ball. Remember the 8 balls? You get to turn them over to find out what the answer is. As I look at let me turn it over. It is right.
Oh, you
here.
have one of those?
Magic number.
Oh, I didn't know you had one. You're just now telling me, Scott? Come on. It's been your secret this whole time.
I love it. You think about how, asking about how many donuts you need for breakfast. Well, it depends on your appetite. And to think about, it could be a couple $1,000,000 for some people. For other people who maybe are going to live overseas and live in a very inexpensive country, it could be a lot less. And then those are people that came in just the other day from our radio show, Alex. They are living down to earth. They don't spend a lot of money. And when they told me how much they were spending on a monthly basis, I said, I bet you're kidding me. He goes, no, I think we need that. I said, well, I bet it's going to be a lot less. Let's dive into it. We found out that, so again, depending on what your lifestyle is, and when you go into retirement, you don't really know what that is. We can work with it, but it's got to be a flexible number the first 6 to 8 months to a year. But when you find that number, that's where your budget is. So run the budget first, Alex, and we can figure that out, and we'll go on. I'm sure you got some more great questions for our listeners, our loyal listeners, to really use the math that I use that I'll make it so simple they'll be excited.
Right. And Scott, it's all about finding that number for that particular person. It's not about what worked, for your brother-in-law, for that guy at work. I mean, everybody is so individual, and that's what it's all about. Just like your analogy with donuts. For some people, it could be that they only need 3 donuts to get satisfied. But some other, maybe you need 6. But either way, you don't want to run out of donuts or money halfway through the party. Right, Scott?
that would be a bad day.
Yeah.
Especially when you have to go to your neighbors and borrow a cup of sugar to make your own donuts. But I think about you're on the long haul plan. This is the long haul plan. If you take your tests in school, used to be age 80 or 90. Now they're going out to age 100. So we have to figure out, will your money last a good long time? Now, will you last a good long time? I don't know. God willing, I hope you do. But again, savings is like a tank of gas. If you got your foot on the heavy pedal in the first few years, maybe giving the kids money that really you shouldn't be because it could really affect you. Or perhaps maybe you're just cruising comfortably. It depends on the emergencies that you come about. And again, that is really a question. This is why when you speak to your advisor, when things come up, you need to give them a call and say, you know what, I need to take care of my mom right now. She's in the nursing home and she's going to be coming home living with me. I need to pull money out. I'm not going to go back to work. Game changer. So again, we all have good intentions, but again, what's the bottom line? That is a conversation with the advisor, which is why people come in here all the time.
Well, yeah, and Scott, and whether it's trying to calculate, do I have enough gas for my drive, or do I have enough money for my retirement? You know, we're not all math experts. I was terrible at math in high school. I need some help. So how do we figure out that number as far as what's needed for retirement, Scott?
Well, you figure in your Social Security, and then if you're married, your spouse's Social Security. Then you figure again, this is after doing your budget. We already said that several of our shows, we've spoken about that. Then you talk about your trips and vacations and gifts. Okay, great. Let's find out you come up short. Let's say you come up short $2,000 a month. Well, if you run the numbers, $2,000, I'll make it very simple. $2,000 a month is $24,000 a year. Well, if you take $24,000 a year, and let's say I had a pile of money sitting in your garage, and so as your pile of money is sitting in the garage, is it making money? Well, you know you need $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year. Well, if you simply take $24,000 and use a simple calculation, let's say of 4%, just for using a easy math number, 4%. Well, to give you $2,000 a month, you need $600,000, or 24,000 divided by 0.04 equals 600,000. That means you're living on the interest, not the principal. Now, some people will say, Scott, I don't want to leave anything. I want my check to bounce to the caretaker. I just don't want to spend it all. Great. If that's the case, we can change the numbers if you know exactly the day you're going to die. But sometimes we don't. And so we're using the rule of 4, which is an old math of many, many, many years. And today the interest rates are 4.5%, 5%, but they're going to change as the Fed changes the rates up and down like a yo-yo. It depends. So again, take your money that you need on a monthly basis, subtract out what Social Security is, subtract out what your pension may be, and then, okay, here's what the deficit is. If the deficit is using, again, $2,000 a month, times 12, because you want it monthly, divided by 0.04 or 4%. That gives you what you should have in your nest egg. The rest, a piece of cake. Now, I'm making it very simplistic, Alex. I hate to do that because we didn't talk about inflation. We didn't talk about the market taking a big, severe drop. I'm talking about safe money that you can count on so it shows up in your mailbox every Monday, the first of the month.
Right.
This is one way of planning.
Well, and Scott, you'll happily have that conversation for folks if they do have questions. You know, sometimes this math can make people's heads spin, but if people are out there and if they have questions, what do you have for those folks?
First of all, if you got questions, I write them down. If you've got them on your mind right now, write them down along with this very, 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 very important number, 609-488-4646. I'm going to give it to you again because that's the phone number and the website, 609-488-4646. Write your questions down. Don't put this off because you know what? If it's just a quick 3-minute phone call, 10-minute phone call on the phone between you and I, hide your checkbook, hide your wallet. We're not going to ask your money. I am here to help you. Been in Weirtown, been in Ocean County since 1979. I'm an old dog, and hopefully I'll live a lot longer to help those of you out there because I love this industry. But we also have to be careful of taxes, Alex.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's where you're going right now, but that's coming around the corner in 2025.
No, let's definitely hit on that. That number one more time for Scott McLean and the team. McLean Advisory Group is 609 888-488-4646. But yeah, you mentioned it, and we don't get political on this show. There are plenty of outlets for that if you want that content. But we do have to address the fact that the tax cuts, Jobs Act enacted in 2017 under President Trump is set to expire at the end of next year. Now, we obviously don't know who's going to win the election, but Scott, what would be the implications if the act does indeed sunset, as they say, at the end of 2025?
Both Republicans and Democrats make promises. We hope they keep, but a lot of times they don't. I'm going to pick on both sides, and you don't need to know my affiliation, but you need to understand this is your money. And so when I look at the tax ramifications of the sunset law coming out, this is going to really affect seniors. Why? If you don't have any write-offs like maybe younger people do with their kids or maybe other benefits, maybe you run your own job. But if you are a senior, it's going to really affect you. So I don't care what the Democrat or Republican says. If this sunset law comes off the table, you need to call our office and say, Scott, how does this affect me? And I'm being very clear and candid. Call my studios, better yet, 609-488-4646. Because if the sunset law does come off the table, the question, there's a call right now, X. If it does come off the table, my concern is, are you ready for this? Almost like if your lovely spouse passes away, you go from a married to a single. Tax bracket jumps like a crazy little jumping bean. Well, now we talk about this. The sunset law could really affect you by an extra $4,000 to $5,000 that you did not know. So we got to understand, which is why our firm does taxes. We do the legal work we work with attorneys, our clients' attorneys, or you can use the attorneys here. But we look at everything. But this taxation is going to be horrendous. It's not going to be, if it doesn't get permanently set, as well as the corporate taxes. And I think Donald Trump's talking about going after China and really putting a lot of challenges against them. That's going to affect you too. So I'm going to pick on both sides. But what's the worst of two evils? This is what we are watching for. And so, Alex, we'll be doing a lot of workshops when this happens. So stay tuned to our website. Not just a plug, but it's 609-488-4646. And go to our website. When we start having educational websites on, you can watch it anytime you want, where I'll be talking about taxes. Please don't put this off. It's going to affect you. Whether your advisor's talking about it or not, you've got to pay attention to this. You've got to pay attention to this. It's important.
And as Scott said, that website is simply thephonenumber.com. So 609-488-4646.com. And I think I just want to finish on this note here, Scott, just quickly, that, when it comes to taxes, some people are surprised with the taxes that they pay in retirement. Do you see that? People thinking, all right, generally I'm going to pay less in tax when I retire. Is that true? Do you see people being more surprised with how much they are taxed?
They are. In 2017, under Donald Trump, when he enacted the Tax Cuts and Job Act, that really reduced tax rates. So when we do taxes here for our financial clients, we found people that didn't like Trump was really just blasting him. And I don't say a word either side.
Sure.
But I was saying, let me show you on the tax returns where you're benefiting. I'm not for Trump and I'm not for Biden at the time. It didn't matter. I don't care. I'm talking about just the numbers, and it made sense. You have some people make an extra $25,000 and they paid probably an extra 5% in tax on the extra $25,000. They just didn't understand it because they didn't, like you said, wrap their arms around it. So I take people slowly through the tax return, because when you're retiring, like we just spoke about earlier, when you retire, how much can you pull out? How much do you need to retire on? Well, now we need to look at taxes. And so this is really important that your advisor, if she or he is not looking at your tax return, it's almost like driving down the road with one tire flat. Your car is going to wear out and it's not going to be a smooth ride. So don't settle for less. Pay attention. And if this tax law changes, please, again, go to our website to learn about this. I'm not giving a cheap plug. I've never said our website this much, but there's a lot going on in the next 4, 5, 6 months that are going to affect you guys out there. So 4, 5, 6 months, it's going to affect you.
That number again for Scott, the team at McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Well, coming up, we're going to be talking about how the baby boomers are up to bat in retirement, but Generation X is on deck. And then later on, we're going to reach into that financial insanity mailbag and go over some of those listener questions. Thanks so much for listening. Heck yeah.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
Get all this stuff and you try to put it away like these hoarders on TV. It has an emotional attachment.
So, Scott, you're saying I don't have to keep every single drawing that my son has done? You're saying I can throw some of that away?
The answer is yes. You can take a picture, then throw it out.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thousands of baby boomers retire every day. And by 2030, they're all going to be 65 years old. And if baby boomers are up to bat for retirement, that means Generation X is on deck. Financial Insanity. I'm Alex Dingman along with Scott McLean. If you hear something today, raises some questions, 609-488-4646 is the number, 609-488-4646. And Scott, we're going to talk about Gen X here in just a moment, but 10,000 boomers turning 65 each and every day. And when you have that many people leaving the workforce, it's going to be some potential impact on the economy, I would think, Scott.
Huge impact leaving the economy. And of course, that's why you want to have more kids. So we have people to pay for these Social Security benefits. What is it? For every retiree getting Social Security, we're going to have a problem that yet 1 equals 1. Could we get to that denomination for every person that retires? You got to have one person to pay for that. That's a big problem. And it used to be a 20-1 many years ago. So it's going to be a big impact, people leaving. I find this funny. I think it's real funny. I remember when I was a young little rat a couple of years ago, when my dad was around, and a brilliant man. And he says, son, as you build your companies out, and we've had a couple companies. I've done a lot of real estate. I've bought a lot of real estate properties, built a development in a place called Tom's River, New Jersey on Todd Road. You'll see McLean Court, Winston Court, built a bunch of, we just had fun while I was running the business. And he says, son, when you get older, just remember, look at the older person. They've got a lot of wisdom. Don't fire an older person if they've got a lot of wisdom, insight. That was really helpful to me now that I'm the older guy. Luckily, I have my own business. They can't fire me because I'm ugly. But the neatest thing is, I think we have a lot of people that are getting out of business. We have a lot of older people staying in the business. But imagine them leaving, and now you bring in a young stud or studette in the industry, and they don't have the wisdom. They have the drive. They have the energy. But that could, of course, cause a problem called quality control. Cause a problem called excessive work or excessive time. Maybe people are spending time looking at their phones versus looking at the work. You've got these young studs and studettes. They think they know everything, but they have some older person like myself helping educate them, like I do with George, who's been with me for many, many years, a brilliant financial planner and financial advisor. And he's listening to me and taking that in. I hope those young people out now are doing that as the old people are leaving, the baby boomers are leaving. This is going to cause a rumble in the market. Remember, the old folks like myself, we have the majority of money, and the younger folks want it. And the question is, how will it last? Are they getting the financial education they need to make their money last And I think that's really important, Alex.
Yeah.
Are they getting that education? What do they do with their money, and how do they handle it? And I don't know if mom and dad's really talking to them because there's no financial classes in school that are doing it.
Well, sure. And, one thing that everybody wants is to leave a legacy. And one legacy could be financial support for, generations behind you. And one area where you Gen Xers could, learn something from boomers is getting started early. And so you have these Gen Xers right now, maybe they're in their mid-50s, still 10 to 15 years from retirement, but that doesn't mean they should just be sitting back and wait. They've been hearing about retirement. They've been thinking, oh, that's my dad. That's my mom. That's the baby boomers. No, that's now you almost. And so now's the time for those folks to really be thinking about it, if not even before now.
Now, Alex, you're a lot younger than I am, but I think what's so funny, nothing has changed. You think about when you're a little kid and Christmas was coming, for those who celebrate Christmas, and you look in the countdown, and here it is, July 2000, and all of a sudden you're about to have Christmas. You're a young little whippersnapper, and July to December 25th is so far away. But us older folks are thinking it's right around the corner.
Yep.
And you think about almost retirement. It's almost the same thing. It's right around the corner. So I'd like to give those of you a quick heads up on math. Let me give you a quick math. If you have grandkids or kids, I call it 10% rule. I call it the 10% rule. I have said this several times on my shows. I know, Alex, you've brought it up many, many times. When you talk about the 10% rule, what does that mean, Scotty? Well, here's what it means, y'all. You ready? Brainwash your grandkids. Brainwash your children to save 10% every paycheck till retirement. I can tell you that's probably the best brainwashing you could ever do. Why? Because it works with compound interest, dollar cost averaging. Compound interest, dollar cost averaging, the rule of 10% in retirement for savings for retirement. So if my paycheck, and I'm delivering newspapers, you grandkids out there, please tell your grandparents, hey, if you made, do they deliver newspapers, Alex? I don't know if they do that
man,
anymore.
I don't think so, my man. That's there might be a few towns that still do it, but
well, I'm just thinking, if you're making $10 delivering newspapers or mowing the yard for $25, $2.50. Now, getting your kid to save $2.50, I talk about that in my introduction to my book. That's $2.50. I guarantee they start getting brainwashed. It's going to become a habit. And that muscle memory, that habit can stay with them. And they will be very, 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 very secure at retirement. Dollar cost averaging 10%. Now, if you're older and you're heading into retirement, maybe it's a higher number, and so that's why you want to give me a call. Scott, am I on target? Will I have enough for the money to last? 609-488-4646. Scott, I need to ask you a question. Let's get together off the air, no cost, no obligation. I promise you, I will not try to say anything, but I can tell you, let's find out if you're on target or off target. There's nothing worse than, as you mentioned in the beginning of this segment, Alex, that many people are afraid to ask questions. Why? Because they're going to get sold. Why are they asking questions? Because they're embarrassed. Why? Because they feel they should know, but they don't know. This is why do you go to professionals for guidance? And that's why I have in my workshop and all my education, when people meet with us, hide your checkbook, hide your wallet. You can't do business with me. Let's get to know each other. And then we can decide if it's a good fit for you or for my firm. Because not knowing that's the biggest pain, which is called change. Am I willing to change my habits? Then once you change your habits, the biggest problem, listen to me, this is you listening, is called procrastination. You keep putting it off, but you didn't call McLean Advisory Group or an advisor. You didn't give a call at 609-488-4646. I got to put a plug, but you didn't call us to get some information, no cost, but you didn't find out the information you need to know to your circumstance, whether you're having a great marriage and it's maybe your child gets sick. Maybe you're about to get remarried. What kind of trust should you have? How do I protect my assets for my children, even though I'm getting remarried? How do I take care of my lovely spouse in case their lights go dim? How do I make sure my money's in a good position because the market's so volatile? These are questions people are afraid to ask because they're afraid to get sold. And then you end up putting it off for procrastination and doing nothing. There's nothing worse than sticking your head in the sand, because what happens? Your vitals are exposed like an ostrich looking at their egg. This is a challenge, I find, Alex.
609-488-4646 is the number for Scott and his team. 609-488-4646. 10,000 boomers turning 65 each and every day. But Gen X coming right behind them, getting ready here pretty soon. And one question I have here, Scott, can Gen X count on Social Security for their retirement?
They can really count on it, but the question is, will they be able to count on it? I mean, right now, the way the deficit's going, could they be using money from the Social Security coffers? We already know that the number comes down. Every time I do an educational workshop on Social Security, it comes down. So now the question is, could there be a 20% drop by 2033? That's right around the corner, 10 years from now, as we do our show today in 2023. So if you're listening this in 2024, okay, it's 9 years, but the question is going to be, can I take a haircut? Or am I saving enough outside of Social Security? Alex, is the real question, because if you want to live on Social Security, and many people can, but maybe they're living with their children. Maybe they're living with their sugar daddy or sugar mama. I don't know. But
That's
the
my
question
plan.
is, can you live on it? I mean, I don't know, but I want to make sure that I'm buttoned up nice and safe. I don't want to be a drain on my children.
Of course.
But maybe it's not a drain. Maybe I'm just living at their house, which is, I've had several conversations. Should I buy a house, Scott, that's a duplex? Maybe. I don't know. But the question is, how long will your money last if the market drops 30%? If the stock market drops 30% like it did in 2008, when it was a 56% drop in 1 year, how are you going to sleep at night? This is why people are calling us often, Alex.
Yeah, I think that's wise, and
It's real.
And obviously, it's smart to get started early. And we're talking about Gen Xers, but Scott, final question here. This segment, maybe when you're even in your 40s, you still have some time, but what should you be thinking about at that point? And is that too early to get with a financial advisor like yourself?
I think people should get a financial advisor when they're a lot younger. And then if they're 40s, yes, I think it's not even an issue. I don't shop somebody out. I don't care. 2 or 3 appointments. Find different people. Find someone that you can mesh with. Find someone who's not going to look at you as a dollar sign, but they're looking at as they want to help you sign. This is how you shop. And I've got a whole white paper on that, Alex. People can get their hands on it. How do you look for a financial advisor? How do you mesh, and what questions should you ask? Really, really important, because putting it off, it just causes a bigger problem.
609-488-4646 is the number. 609-488-4646. Just add a .com for the website. And like Scott mentioned earlier, you can go to the site there and send in your own questions, which is just so important, Scott, because that's what we're going to talk about on the show. We wouldn't be talking about stuff if people weren't worried about it. They didn't have concerns. They didn't have questions. And so getting those to us is just so important, because we want to try to answer.
I'd love to help the people. Put your questions down. Go to our website. Give us a shout out. I think that's critical.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, Gen Xers not quite retiring in droves just yet, but definitely need to start thinking about it, getting their head into the game. We're going to talk about more of that coming up. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646. 4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Retirement planning, investment planning is a two-way street. It's got to meet. I need to understand the good, bad, and ugly you've been through so we can avoid those issues. This, to me, is very important.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Gen Xers not retiring in droves just yet, but they are worried about how to get ready for retirement. You have these folks in their 40s, their 50s, and so, still around 10, 15 years maybe from retirement, Scott. We're talking about these folks today and how they can get prepared. If you have questions, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And so, Scott, for those folks that maybe still have another 10 years until they retire, what should they be really prioritizing in terms of their savings at this point?
Wants versus needs. Wants versus needs. A lot of time you want to get that fancy car, but then you're thinking, is my savings, do I have enough for retirement? You're not going to think about that when you're driving that nice new, smelling car, brand new leather seats, or that boat. And you think about, how much am I saving? How much am I putting away? This is wants versus needs. We all know this. We've all heard it. This is nothing new. You don't have to go get the degrees I have to get that, but it's very, very basics. And you think about the very basic is number one. If you're saving enough money in savings, emergency fund, as well as saving enough money for retirement, do you know that number? Do you know what you should focus on? And don't use these pie in the sky, stupid numbers. Well, if you're getting a 12% rate of return, then you have to always save this. Don't use, be very critical on the rate of return. When a financial guy or a gal says, we're going to get you a nice rate of return of 12 to 15%. This happened to me in the 80s when the market was screaming, and the 90s. And I remember people coming in, Scott, when the market's screaming, if you can't get me 12 to 15%, I can do it myself. And they were right in that small window of opportunity.
Yeah.
And time. The question is, let's not use fake numbers, because we don't have a fake retirement when you get to the retirement age you want to get to. Are you using realistic numbers? I'm not going to tell you what it is out there, guys, but I can tell you, use realistic numbers. If you call me at our studios, I'll talk to you about it. But the second thing is, of course, want versus needs. This is the biggest problem when you say, I want to go on that fancy trip. I can tell you, I've had a clients came in, Scott, we've got over $200,000 saved, and we have $1,500 of Social Security from my wife. My Social Security is $2,000 a month, and we only need $5,000 to live on. Okay, well, that means you need $1,500. How do you plan on making that up? So what does $1,500 mean to you? What does your number mean to you? And I talk about this, and I use the rule of 4 to keep real simple. And I'm going to give it real easy to you guys. If you take the rule of 4 and I need $1,500 to get me my $5,000 like the client, well, $1,500 times 12 is $18,000. So I need to make $18,000 a year for the rest of my life. Well, if I use the rule of 4, I simply divide it by the rule of 4. That means I need $450,000 in my nest egg by age, let's say 65, all right, when I turn on my Social Security, or for those of you, 67, whatever that number is. But now we have to add one more factor in called, well, that's inflation. So let's throw that number in, and that's the number we focus on. Now we can buy that fancy new car with the wonderful smelling seats and leather. Or we can buy that nice boat. Or maybe we can put the pool in the backyard. But the mindset needs to be, but we need, honey, to put away $341 a month to get to our number. That's what Scotty said, or that's what our financial advisor said. These are numbers, but let's make them more fun, because finance is not fun. And most of you listening to me, you probably don't like numbers. Most people don't like numbers, except you win the lottery. Then you get the right numbers you like. That's probably the only time you like numbers. But cultivate the mindset of saving. Understand if it's $325 a month you need to save. Honey, can we buy that boat? Yes, we are on target. How great would that feel knowing you're on target and you're going to buy that boat or that pool that your kids are screaming for, or maybe the college fund you need to save for? Alex, make finances fun, even though they're not fun all the times. Pursue the passions you want in retirement. Cultivate a social connection. What are we going to do when we retire? What does it look like? And then I think of those older people that are in retirement right now, the volunteer give back. There's an organization I'm strongly love. It's called Star Poverty. Star Poverty right here in Barnegat, New Jersey, where they're only focused to how do I get people food? And they need volunteers. Listen to me right now. Listen to me right now. If you can offer time to Star Poverty right here in Barnegat, New Jersey, please call me. Please call me right now so I can get you the information on Starve, STARV, poverty. They do a wonderful job. This nonprofit, I know the people. I know the money is very fiscally sound. 609-488-4646. I am a big supporter of theirs. I can tell you the work they do for people that are not as privileged as you listening to me. They want to help. If you want to volunteer, do a give back. 609-488-4646. And then you can think about your travel. Where do you want to explore? Not knowing that you've touched your finances are in order, your social calendar is in order, your give back is in order, you're volunteering, helping people. There's nothing worse than staying in your house and doing nothing versus getting out and helping others. This is my biggest ploy when I see people pursuing retirement. Well, here's the more other areas other than money. What are the other areas psychologically, emotionally you need to pay attention to? And I think that's really important when it comes to financial planning, Alex, not just numbers.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I know a lot of people listening right now as we're talking about Gen Xers and baby boomers. And one thing that they share is that they may be a part of that sandwich generation where they're right in between. Maybe they're taking care of parents and they're taking kids at the same time. And Scott, this can have a huge impact on your finances, can have a huge impact on planning for your own well-being in the future. And how does maybe someone address this?
Sandwich generation. I heard that. It was kind of funny. And you think about taking care of your mom and dad, like my meeting just a while ago, helping your mom and dad. Or maybe you meet a Generation Xer and they're 50 years old, got a couple kids. Maybe their kids are 20, 23. Then you got the grandmom and grandpa, 70s and 80s. How does that look? And then all of a sudden you find out you have to take care of mom and dad, and you're juggling all sorts of emotional things, taking care of your mom and dad, taking care of your young kids, and all of a sudden the grandbabies start popping out, or your children are having struggles. I don't know if this is answering your question when you think about it, Alex, but the Generation Xers and versus the boomers, this sandwich generation, the financial responsibilities may not seem much to you now, but when it sneaks up on you and your dad has a heart attack, your mom gets MS, your children get a divorce and they don't have any money, it sneaks up on everybody. It affects more than just one person. This is an emotional and financial question, Alex. And this is a big thing that people aren't paying attention, let alone the medication, the expense they're paying for healthcare.
Yeah.
And so this is really important, Alex.
Well, and I think the big thing is, Scott, is that you can plan, but life is going to happen.
Yes, for sure.
It's going to happen, and you've seen it happen, and people know this already in their own lives. They know that they've planned, and then, well, I didn't know I'd get married at 20 and divorced at 30, or I didn't know that, like you said, my parent was going to get sick or whatever. And so, it is important to plan, and then you also have to plan for the unexpected, which I know that sounds impossible, but there are
really
things you can put in place to do that, right, Scott? In the last
Alex,
couple minutes we have.
This is a funny, just a lovely client. They have a significant amount of money, husband and wife, great. They've been with us many, many years as financial clients. We've guided them through the legal and taxes. Let me give you a situation. This may be you out there. Listen, they're close. They have a beautiful son, a beautiful daughter. The daughter went through a terrible divorce. She has 2 children, and now she's getting remarried. And she will be inheriting significant money when mom and dad pass away. I know that. I know the whole family. Here's the question. When I asked the father today, if your daughter dies before you do, and then the money goes to the estate, does the money go to the grandchildren? He goes, well, you know, Scott, you did my estate. I said, I know. But what does her will say? What if she dies after you? She inherits the money, then she dies. Does her new husband get the money, and the money goes to her children and to his children? Does she have that in her will? Has the financial advisor paid attention to the will of your children, the will, power of attorney, living will? You see, when you pass money on, we can help our clients grow money, Alex. The question is, what happens if they pass on? Should we have that, I call it the come to Jesus meeting, come down to earth and find out, by the way, kids, I'm not trying to weasel my life into you becoming your financial advisor, but mom and dad want to make sure that you're buttoned up nice and tight, that in the event mom and dad dies, that your money goes to you and your portion of the money goes to the blood, not to the new husband or the new husband's children if they have children before they get married. I see this time and time again. People are not paying attention to the legal aspects, let alone where does the money go and do they have enough money, Alex? This is another snag in the three blind mice scenario. 609-488-4646. By the way, guys, that's my website, 609-488-4646. That's the phone number. And it's also 609-488-4646.com. You can't forget it. Why? Because we're here for you to help you answer your questions and concerns. No cost, no time. It is the best time right now.
Financial Insanity with Scott McLean continues in just a moment.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
Now it's time for one of our funnest segments. We really enjoy this, getting questions from the audience. Scott, I know you're ready for our mailbag segment. You're listening to Financial Insanity. And if you hear something and it raises an idea, concern, something you may have, 609-488-4646 is the number, 609-488-4646. And Scott, let's just jump right into it here, my friend. Here's the first question. This person's worked at the same company for 25 years. They had a 401k there. That's great. But a big merger, and now I'm not sure how to track down that account. I've definitely heard of this happening before. What tips do you have for Scott for trying to seek out that old 401k?
Wow. Well, first of all, they should have a statement at least once a month, if not once a quarter, for the statements of the 401k. If they've been there for 25 years, I can tell you they've been either not paying attention to statements, or maybe they checked off a box on their investment to make it all email, but they need to call the HR department. Of course, based on the big merger, you want to see if there's any stock options. Did they have any stock options? Were they there before the company? Obviously, you've been there for 25 years. There might be some options there. And so you need to go to the HR department, then over the investment department, ask them, of course, Where's the money? Maybe it's payroll. Maybe it's that simple, but it's being real proactive. And if you start hearing the rumbling in the street, make sure you get your affairs in order, and then have a meeting with someone, with an advisor who can look at holistically their investments, and if they got laid off, not laid off, there's going to be a buyout. What's going to happen? This is a lot of questions there. That's a huge question on just one simple question, but it's really, really big. And I think you're going to hear, based on the economy and how it's going, you're going to hear about perhaps layoffs. Like when I was a young kid in the 80s, they call it age discrimination. Well, now they can just go ahead and get rid of the old people because they have it contractually. So this is really important. You pay attention to your investments, your dollars, and again, where are they to make good money?
That's great, Scott. All right, another question here. This person says that they've done a pretty good job keeping track of that dreaded B word, the budget, and finances during adult life. But, important question here, why is it so important to have someone else do this budgeting for you in retirement?
You know, everybody who wants to win in sports and goes into competition, they're not their own coach. They've got to get a coach. And so you might be overlooking things, maybe overseeing how you're working out, how you throw the football, how you hit the golf ball. They need a coach. When it comes to investment, this is really, really challenging when you try to do it yourself, you run the budget. And if you go meet with an investment advisor who's done this for many, many years, they've seen people make good mistakes and bad mistakes. There are good mistakes. You can correct things. Obviously, at least you tried. But there's no do-overs in retirement. So having another set of eyes is almost like, it's almost like when I was looking for my keys the other day, and my wife said, I said, where's my keys? Where'd you put my keys? Scott, look on the table. I'm looking on the table. Scott, are you looking at the table? Look to your left. I'm looking to my left. Now, obviously, I was in a hurry. I need to get out. But she came over to me. She grabbed my hand kindly and very calmly, luckily. A scotoma is something you don't see, even though it's right in front of you. This is why people need another fresh set of eyes, because there are no do-overs in retirement, and one mistake could cost you hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially in choosing your Social Security and then choosing the right investment options. Alex, next.
Why are women so much better at finding things? It's not a question that's been sent in, but it's just true. It's just
more
true.
Patient.
All right. Well, here's a good one. So this person sent it in for their dad. They says, my dad's a worrier, and now I'm afraid he's going to worry himself to death over everything that he sees on social media.
That's real.
He's constantly getting all of this information, and it seems to be worrying him, scaring him. What advice can this person give to their father when it comes to social media and all this financial news?
Everybody has their view. I have my view. Alex, you have your view. We have different views. That's why I like looking at history. What can history teach us versus trying to guesstimate? History has a good way of repeating itself more often than not. But again, we have to have many different advisors. I think with one advisor in your world, in your life, because the wisdom comes from many advisors in the book I read. And oftentimes we need that. How do you tell your dad? Dad, let's come on. You got. I don't know if you can tell your parents anything. They're going to do what they want to do. They're probably set in their ways. I don't mean to be ugly. I can just tell you, if they're set in their ways, or maybe you can say, let's go find a hobby. But then you need to say, Dad, or Mama, these are two different opinions. Opinions are, everybody has their opinion, but let's see what we can find out. Let's call a couple people and get their feedback. But I can tell you that will cause, psychologically, we know for a fact that bad news causes your health to decline. It's a positive mental attitude, not saying, oh, I hope the deficit goes away. No, we got to fix it. But it's keeping your head in the muck starts to smell. I can promise you. So they need to help get another advice, perhaps come in and say, let's talk to somebody else about it. But they need a fresh opinion. It sounds like they're kind of stuck in the muck. And it's really hard to do. Be very patient with your older parents, because pretty much it's going to be hard to change that habit. I'm sorry.
It's very true. No, very true. And we are going over some mailbag questions today. If you have questions, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Add.com for the website. Scott McLean, Financial Insanity, out of the box thinking for your financial sanity. Another question here, Scott. What is your best advice for someone who maybe is 10 years away from retirement and doesn't want to make any big financial mistakes? Huge time here. If it was football, that'd be the red zone, I would think, for your retirement.
Boy, that's a great thought. 10 years. Most people come in the last 6 months or last 3 months.
I'm retiring next week, Scott. What should I do?
Exactly right. So for those people that are in or near, I should say, nearing retirement, congratulations if you're 10 years away thinking about it. Number one, pay attention to taxes. Pay attention to taxes. How can I increase my savings? Pay attention to investing, shifting from the G to the I. TR equals G plus I. TR, total return, equals growth plus interest. The goal is shifting your assets to a more of an income play so you can live on the dividends and interest, not just on the growth. You can't spend growth. We spoke about that early in the segment. You can't spend growth, but you can spend the dividends and interest. 10 years away is a long time. Where do I put my money? Should I focus on a Roth IRAs as well as my 401k? Should I, if my spouse is retired, should I go ahead and continue funding my spouse's retirement? How much liquid cash do I need so when I retire, I have enough liquidity? And then I think the big cuss word most of the seniors or those becoming seniors like myself, here's a cuss word I think you need to memorize. It starts with the capital N and then the capital O. When people keep borrowing money from you, your kids keep coming to the well, perhaps you need to say no. And then I tell our clients, just tell them, my financial guy said I can't do it. Blame someone. I mean, my daughter used to want to go out and date a couple of guys, and she goes, "Dad, I really don't like that guy." I said, "Well, just tell him to come talk to me, and I'll help you out, honey. Use somebody else to help you out of that situation if you can't say no, because that's the biggest. We never know when we need extra cash. It could be the money is for you and your spouse if you're married. Then it's for your livelihood. Then it's for your fun enjoyment. So the go-go years, it goes to slow-go years, and maybe you can start giving it away. But it's about you first, you and your lovely spouse or your charities, but actually you and your family first, taking care of them. This is the biggest challenge I find, because what happens is when you get to that point, focus on your budget. But again, the cuss word, no. Start practicing no, because I can tell you that will start to bleed your money when you go into retirement and you're starting to help your kids. Well, they need it. Well, you're hurting yourself. It could be painful. So be very cautious of that.
If you have questions, the number for Scott, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Just a couple minutes left, Scott. And I just wanted to ask you, if somebody maybe is on the fence about coming in, giving you a holler, what can you tell people about what it's like, the first contacts with you, and maybe that first visit? If somebody wants to come in, maybe if you could just kind of explain what that process is like for folks that maybe are first-time visitors, first-time callers into you.
Well, that's really enjoyable time. I think I encourage people, as Alex, you were saying, give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Ask for Bonnie. And what will happen is Bonnie will say, okay, great. She'll schedule a time to come in or over the phone. She'll ask you some questions. She'll send you a little questionnaire, not in depth, but just to get to know you. I want to get to know people, whether it's over the phone, via the Zoom, the internet stuff, you can see each other, or coming into the office. We're going to ask lots of questions that surrounding your family, who gets the money, your health, your benefits you have at work, your spouse. Perhaps your spouse passed away. Maybe you have inheritance. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff about you, because it's about who? You. When I hear people going to a financial office and giving that financial guy or gal money for the first time, or going to the bank, to me, they're just double dumb. Why? You need to get to know the whole picture, not just a quick salesman. That drives me absolutely crazy when people come in there and say, well, we got a great product, and they're selling product. It's not about product. It's about, well, we don't need, if we're a carpenter, we don't need a drill and we don't need a bit. We just want that hole. Well, to get the hole, you got to have a drill and a bit. I want to know what kind of planning, what kind of personality you are. Is this a good fit for me as well as a good fit for you? It's a two-way street because retirement planning, investment planning is a two-way street. It's got to meet. I need to know your investment strategies. I need to know your investment outlook. I need to understand the good, bad, and ugly you've been through so we can avoid those issues. This is why, whether it's one meeting or two meetings, we don't do business the first one or two meetings ever. We get to know people. This, to me, is very important.
I love it. I just love you framing that up for folks. 609-488-4646. 609-488-4646. This has been another episode of Financial Insanity with Scott McLean. Great show as always, my friend, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right, you too, my friend, and everybody out there.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.